It just seems like at a certain point, if you want to have natural athletes, like say in the UFC, in 15 years, everybody in the stands is going to be in better shape and better condition than the actual athletes.
Well, you know what it's going to be like? It's going to be like churning your own butter and riding a horse to work.
Yeah, you're mitigating evolution. It's like, congratulations.
Yeah.
And the reasons that they're doing it are so foolish sounding. They just sound like children.
Well, I get it because like what you get out of competition. If you see a guy who has gone through an 8-week training camp, and he's fighting, Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold, both guys we would assume clean, training their entire life, getting ready for this moment. The amount of discipline and focus that's required to get through that fucking camp is goddamn brutal. It's soul searing. These guys are getting up every morning with exhausted bodies, and they're doing their strength and conditioning, they're doing their sparring, they're doing all their technical training, and they're fucking tired all the time, man. They get through it. And that's one of the things that Vitor and Weidman had at it at the weigh-ins, where Weidman pointed his finger at him and he goes, "You were fucking using during camp," because they did their blood screens, and
I remember
Weidman's Vitor had a testosterone use exemption, for the longest time, and his testosterone, when he was on, was off the charts. He was just
3 times a human,
jacked
kind of shit.
1475 was the highest number that he tested for, right? During camp, while they're in camp, this is after they take his testosterone away. Okay, they say you can't use it anymore. He tested 1,200, and Weidman tested 300. And so Weidman's like, "What the fuck?" He goes, "You were using during camp," and he goes, "I'm gonna make you fucking pay for that tomorrow." And he said it to them at the weigh-ins, and you could see the look in Vitor's eyes. He's like, there's a look that a guy has when he's guilty.
The most cogent, the only real smart explanation for against it was when I listened to Rhonda talk about it. And she goes, they know when they're off it that they can't be, she knows she's not, I know I'm 100% me. Mm-hmm. Sorry, bitch. If you come in like that, you've already lost. She's like, and I was like, that is huge, because the psychological effect, we saw it when guys came from Pride, and they came over, they would break, and you're seeing guys that are top level savages break, and then you're like, that is a different athlete.
Well, it's a different human being, because you're not enhanced anymore. When you're
and it takes your belief, though. It takes your belief,
of course, because you know what you were capable of. These superhuman performances when you're on it. Their chin would be better. Everything would be better.
They get to hang the cape up.
Yeah, hang the cape.
Hang up the cape.
Hang up. Take away the fucking the super ring.
Yeah.
Totally. And then I mean, once you've tasted that, I
don't know what those guys were taking
everything.
The shootbox guys though.
Get their hands on.
Remember when there was a thing and it was all the shootbox guys and they would get touched and they would go out and they would be out. And then they'd get touched again, and they'd come back on.
Yeah.
And it was like there's something like as soon as he hit the ground, he popped, and it was like almost an impossibility to knock him out. It was like God knows what they were fucking doing.
It was so impressive when Vanderlei got crow-copped.
Yeah.
Because even all that.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, that was the heaviest Vanderlei had ever been. He was like 218.
Yeah.
Crow-Cop was only 214. Crow-Cop was actually lighter than Vanderlei, even though Crow-Cop had fought heavyweight his entire career, and Vanderlei, really his optimal weight was 185. And he was fighting as a heavyweight. He was a 183-pound champion, right? Or the 203-pound champion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what it was, right? And, gets to the UFC, he drops down to 185 because he's not on the shit anymore. But when he's fighting, or allegedly, but when he's fighting Crow-Cop, even after all that, but we don't even know what the fuck Crow-Cop was doing.
Right. That was one of the biggest, strongest guys I ever wrestled with.
Yeah.
Like that guy he's strong. He's like one of those different level strengths.
Schaub said too when he fought him. He said he couldn't believe how strong he was.
Dude, he's powerful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his fucking KO power's legendary.
Yeah.
But again, those guys, they just had an open agreement. You just do whatever the fuck you want.
Not even an open agreement. You better do it.
Yeah, it was in the contract.
Yeah,
our buddy. Yeah.
Stop it. It was in the contract.
And the contract said we will not test for steroids. But our buddy went over there, and he was a natural 170-pounder, and they wanted him to fight at 185. He's like, I don't even weigh 185 pounds.
Yeah, totally.
Don't worry, we can do a steroid.
And then he's like, I don't want to. And they're like, no, this you do. We have the doctor. Like, it's like, like you're not gonna not do it. It's all mob shit,
Hey man, the guys at the pinnacle of their game, if they're not doing that stuff, honestly, I'm surprised. Like, I have zero problem with that whatsoever. Like,
the problem is it wrecks your endocrine system, and after you get off of it, you're done. I mean, these guys they're on these hyperhuman levels in their 20s, and then they get off of it, and their balls don't work anymore.
You know, the one thing,
I see that in the teams too. Guys,
sure.
they research the ingestion portion, and they're like, okay, cool, I'm done. No post-cycle anything, and then they're just...
So what is the protocol when you're involved in that? Like, is that like from the top down? Do they tell you about it? Like, how does that?
Steroid use in the military is against the UCMJ. So if guys are going down that route, they're doing it on their own underneath the radar. However, the drug testing in the military does not test for steroids. It's a very specific test. You'd have to be picked out and pinged for that reason.